but there's always going to be a slight chance that the NC frame is wrong. Then, because it's impossible to prove any particular moral claim 100% true or false. And I've conceded offense to the crime advantage. I'll extend that later, but go to the NC. Overview. He says we have to look to the considered obligations of the state first. That means that you reject his terms on the universalizability framework. I'm also going to win why the government is necessarily utilitarian on good and 90. I'll get there later, but overview to the contention. The plan is constitutional. Millheiser 11. While Congress's powers are not limited, they're still sweeping Congress free to spend money so long as it provides for general welfare. This federal programs that expand educational opportunity are clearly constitutional. There's no question the programs that Bill has to expand national workforce by the general welfare of this country. He's going to say this only proves stability, but Millheiser 11 is very specific on this question that the Constitution says that the government has a positive obligation to promote general welfare. The plan intuitively promotes general welfare. Millheiser 11 is very specific on there. Also, the Constitution does say we have to provide general welfare. That means Constitution devolves to util because the Constitution doesn't explicitly define what general welfare is. Only my framework does that. He's going to say util still false, but my devolves to util warrant precedes his generic indicts to util because util is the only moral framework you can actually look to, and you ignore presumptions. So you have to default to the only framework other than the round. That also, the fact the plan is constitutional. Also, he says that Constitution means we have to return the plan to the state, but this makes absolutely no sense. Pell Grants is a uniquely federal program. He can never solve the plan. So, this means passing the plan, plus being consistent with the Constitution, solves better. My competitive post-fiat policy option is always going to be comparably better than his. Then, going to the crime, or actually go to good at 90, sorry, before the crime advantage. Extend good and 90 to consider an obligation to policymakers to look to util policymakers have no idea how they're going to affect each individual one by one, which means they need to aggregate and they have to look at averages. On number one, he says the good is descriptive. However, my argument is not that the squad government is util. My argument is that the squad government is not util, and that they have to look to utilitarian calculus and call good and 90. Good and 90 is not saying that the government is currently utilitarian. The government, good and 90 is saying that the government has to be utilitarian because that's the only thing they can do. This also takes as an argument of why this is not valid, because this is saying that they have a proactive obligation to utilitarian. This also takes as an argument of due process of proportionality violations, or is the reason why Constitution precedes the 18 arguments that we can only look to these kinds of side constraints because they maximize pleasure. Or because the key to utilitarian calculus. This is the reason that the NC framework devolves to util. His generic AT-util arguments don't apply because util is the only moral framework we have left. Also, the conclusion does not fall from the premise. His arguments only prove that util calculus hardening can likely be inaccurate. That doesn't mean util is false. We're looking to what moral theory is true. So my devolves to util warrants come first. Then, he says the NC links first. But again, there's no side constraint violation of the Constitution, so default to util. Then go to the crime advantage. Extend Houston 1-2, crime high now. National statistics prove two-fits-all criminal source saving. Extend Vizinio 9, Pell Grants remain solved. Crime lack of education is the root cause of crime. Extend false crime kills soft power because it's bad international rep. Thanks to 9 armed torture, extend soft powers with multiple scenarios for extinction, increases cooperation, and reduces cost of hard powers. So the U.S. can better fight disease, warming, economic collapse, relative terror. See the extinction scenario. Game over.
Alright, before I begin, can you just put Ostrom 2, the new card you read, and Gooden all on a sheet for me?
Sure. I'm not very technologically proficient, so this might take more than a minute.
Yeah, I don't care. Just put them all in one piece.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. They're all on like separate pages in my copy pasting screen. They're all in one document. Okay, cool. So, let's go ahead and add. Here you go.
Alright, wait, so what order did you put them in? If they're all in separate
I put it,
pages?
it was Constitution, Ostrom, Gooden.
I'm just starting to okay. Alright, we'll start with a brief overview of the round. Then we'll go down the NC, starting at the very top. I'll signpost clearly, and we'll go to the AC.
Okay. Am I flowing this overview?
I'd appreciate it if you flow it, but it'll just be a quick summation of the round. Alright, ready? This round will be really simply divided because Adam sees every single argument of the NC about why the app is insecure an obligation. He's able to take the Boston argument. That means even if he's winning Boston, that cannot generate a moral obligation, generate some other type of obligation, not a moral one. He also can see the app is a moral obligation, so even if we win by the extension of Boston, which is through a lot of ink, I'm taking up the warrant, it still be speaking to negate off the NC. Now let's go to the NC. So go to the topic, send the auto-class obligation, risk to federal waste, negligence, 50 CDS. Now send the obligation not subject to FDs like the AC or the Boston. Now send it. B, consented from the council moral obligation. Well, we should whether you can merge on this can always generate income protection. This contain also the extension to the good analysis, even if he wins the good extension. Unspeaked an obligation. We don't know what counts more harm to the AC frame. That's also conceded take up the standard itself. It's phrase on the AC is taken up the entirety of the frame. The implication is very clear. If you look at the app, you can't carry an obligation. It's not a trick. This is the reason why obligations only come from the NC, not the AC. That means in order to affirm, you first have to be the NC. This also is the Bostrom analysis. This index is ability to generate a moral obligation for Bostrom rather than some other type of obligation. Also, the internal warrants entirely the NC are conceded. Give me a lot of leeway. Don't do any argument interaction last in the next speech. So now to the C point, the different subjective obligation action can state adequate to family company still means no single obligation. The difference includes the other including the also the Bostrom analysis. Bostrom says we have at least individuals on an obligation to keep looking for moral uncertainty. He's conceding analysis the obligation of the AC do not apply to states, they only apply to individuals. That also the Boston analysis also conceded take it extended here. This means that even if individuals have to look for moral uncertainty, there's no reason why all governments also have that obligation. That is the only place you can possibly willing to stand. This debate is off the good analysis. The problem is the good is a terrible piece of evidence concedes a lot of response to. So these are two independent reasons to get rid of Bostrom. Even if we have ethical uncertainty, Bostrom is still not enough to generate an obligation. That is very clear. Even if he says Bostrom comes before the NC, it's not enough to generate an obligation, even if it does come at some sort of weird transcendental shit. Now go to the D point. Extend the United States of legal fiction not capable of internal motivation self-fiction. The ACA is no normative force following government can't and criminalistic can on the frame switch within all this is a decent one. Also get the Boston analysis. Even if Boston would be an individual's no way to look for moral uncertainty, governments know but never know they have to look for moral uncertainty. Also get insofar as he's conceding that individuals and moral actors have to know the obligations they have to follow. We don't know that the government doesn't know that Boston is an obligation has to follow. This is a very clear implication. Boston goes away. It can't generate an obligation for the state, which he concedes the actor. These are three conceded tickets to the ACE framework, the whole end of Boston as well. This means even if Boston comes before these indict the obligating force of Boston. Now, this includes the experience in the winter speech for the frame that's in speech firm. Now, though, with the extent the United States procedures from the obligation by body is consent to, which has considered with authority over the U.S. This also the ACE, he can see that the government has to consent to a body before can obligate. No reason why they consent to the policymaker. Also, no reason why it consents to Bostrom. That means even if Bostrom is true, we can't generate obligation to the government. It's never consented to do it. But now there are a lot of other arguments to get rid of Bostrom. Every argument on the ACE, extend the A subpoint, the Constitution, extend the B sub, the bodies like the you should enforce the Constitution. You swallow the only the Constitution as enforcement making the actual obligation the United States requirement for any obligation theory. It takes out the entirety of the ACE. Here's why. He concedes that a component of any obligating to get an orphan movement obligation must be able to obligate the United States and force it to do something. There's no reason why A, Boston can force the government to continue to look for moral truths. B, there's no reason why the policymakers in the app have any type of this obligating force to the Supreme Court. So he's dropping a lot of the line out of the NC, which takes up the entirety of the app. To be very clear, he concedes his burden is proven an obligation, not some comparative benefit. He cannot prove an obligation except only under the NC. The problem is he concedes that his turn is not a sufficient turn. And go to the F subpoint. He said that the resolution is an atemporal statement. That means all the AC often goes away. That's just in one situation, but it's not always going to extend Pell Grants. Right? Some other situation that could be solved. That means even if he wins, you to lose. No, so much for the acts concede takeout. Now, send the ready analysis. The Constitution specifically your response to criminal justice of the individual not to government. That's ready. Now, extend the argument the Constitution does not make comparative statements which is value one system over another. It's only proposed absolute criminal actions. No threshold saying it's value more than another. It seems based on the value system with the judge. He also concedes the way of the NC that we only look to explicit text of the Constitution as far as the text does not take or obligate a value variable retribution. That means that even if it should for utilitarian options, that is not kind of moral obligation. It also seems that if we look at other information like the one that Adam was trying to go, that makes the subjectivity which is not an obligation. So that takes rid of his turn the NC. But he also concedes that the general welfare clause doesn't turn the NC. I put it right there. Extend the A subpoint refers to the right to tax, not implement a regulated policy. B, it's something the rest of the Constitution does not exclude is supposed due to the government. Takes out his argument. He's just proving he's permissible. The problem is the NC advocacy that yes, they're both permissible to treat them equally, not that we're all being do one with the other. He concedes that he does not turn the NC for every single argument extend the NC. All the NC arguments take out Boston, also get the AC frame. That means if you go to the F, no obligation, you negate there. Or you go to the NC where I'm clearly proving the opposite value of the equal. Now let's go to the F with the extension of the offense defense paradigm. He's under reciprocal to I because that my negative burden be unequal. But in this case, it's not under reciprocal. I'm not trying to undermine any assumption of the resolution. Rather, I'm just going to treat them that they ought to be valued equally. This means I'm giving the offense defense defense paradigm. Furthermore, you didn't read a voter for offense defense. We don't know why it's morally relevant. Why it's relevant when you're valuing ground. More importantly, there's no violation. His burden is proving we ought to value rehab over retribution. I'm proving we ought to value them equally. Now, there's obligations, especially true for Bostrom. This is a conceded takeout because Bostrom just talks about if we don't know if ethical theories are true. The problem is if we don't know if ethical theories are true, then we can never determine a moral obligation. That's the problem with Bostrom. Why it's instinct to affirm an LD resolution. That means that if he's winning Bostrom, there's a 1% risk of true. Can't receive the NC because first he can see multiple spikes, arguments coming out of the NC about why that doesn't have obligation capacity, which means Bostrom can never drain an obligation. B, it also sees multiple reasons why that can never drain a moral obligation. He conceides his burden. Now, let's go to the top of the app. We're just going, so to be very clear, Adam's only risk of offense in the round, the other Adam's only risk of offense in the round, is from the Bostrom analysis, which you can use over 7 different arguments that independently take it out and can't determine an obligation, or B, the good analysis, where every single argument of the NC also applies by good and can't determine an obligation. But now, let's go to good analysis, extend the number 2 argument, good just justifies the Constitution, because the Constitution accounts for why policymakers exist in the first place. Furthermore, the Constitution defines what their obligations are. Good says, good is making the claim that we should do something else. My argument is that no, the reason they exist in the first place is in the Constitution. You can see that is a better link back into what policymakers ought to do, because it accounts for the reason for their existence. And also, this constituent will, the reason for existence is strongly linked back. So that justifies the NC. Here's what I'm going to say. Every single argument off the NC is reasoned by Adam's AC at every single level, be it Bostrom, the crime advantage, or good, is not sufficient to affirm because it can't obligate the government for any number of reasons coming off the AC. He also concedes that it's very sufficient advocacy to me to say that they ought to be treated equally. He can't say he generates some net benefit to the neg. The neg is going for the framework debate, not the contention level debate. He may be solving for crime, whatever the terminal impact scenario in the app is. The problem is it's not morally relevant because the Constitution does not explicitly obligate that we care about consequentialist harms. It's a really easy negative ballot because of every dropped argument.
I have like 2 minutes left, right?
1:30.
1:30, cool, thanks. So, wait, I'm gonna get my timer start. Starting now. Okay, so the order is going to be, it's going to be all of his cross apps in the NR, like when he just went all out, like answering Bostrom. Yeah, so it's just going to be Bostrom, Gooden, and then offense, defense, if I have time. Actually, no, sorry. Bostrom, Constitution, Gooden, offense, defense. And I'm going to be extending crime in between there, but it'll be very clear. That's good? Yep. Sounds good? All his cross applications of NC to Bostrom were new. He should have made the impact of his blips in the 1NC to Bostrom very explicitly. The only time he explicitly answered Bostrom in the 1NC, his only argument was, I'm going to win no moral uncertainty. But that was his only explicit answer to Bostrom in the 1NC. All his cross applications coming from the initial NC were new in the 2, so you don't look to them. But then he says the Bostrom doesn't provide for an explicit obligation because we don't know whether moral theory is true. We can't have an obligation. Bostrom provides a very clear obligation saying that it's impossible to prove any particular moral claim 100% true or false, which means that any risk of moral uncertainty we should default to being obligated to minimize existential risk. You should always give me credence here. A sub-point is that his blip strategy is really hard in the app because of time skews. You should always prefer my extension of Bostrom to his blips. B sub-point is that most all of his cross applications coming off all of his extensions of the NC cross applied to Bostrom, they were all new. His only explicit answer to Bostrom was, I'm going to win no moral uncertainty. But he concedes the one I gave moral uncertainty in my last speech. It's impossible to prove any particular moral claim 100% true or false. This means minimizing existential risk precedes the NC. It doesn't matter whether good is true or false. You have a proactive obligation to minimize existential risk prior to looking into the Constitution. Then, Then extend the crime advantage. Houston 1-2 says crime sign out. 2 fits all criminal source survey. This is on the AC. Extend Bazzini 9. Pell Grant solve crime. Education shows that they get off the streets. Extend Fall 12. Crime kills stop. The international community win. Like us more. They extend 9 armed treasure 7 soft power solves. Multiple scenarios for extinction. Where the U.S. has the clout to create multilateral coalitions that can solve the world's problems. I saw multiple scenarios for extinction, but I'll also win good in. Then extend good into the considered obligation of the United States federal government. Actually, no, continuing on Constitution, sorry. Extend Bill Heiser 11, that was the overview to the NC. The plan is constitutional. Congress's spending powers mean that they are free to spend money on educational programs. So he concedes the weighing that I did with Gooden in my last speech. I said that the government under Gooden has a utilitarian obligation as long as there's no Constitution violation. It's on your flow. I said the government has a prior obligation to util as long as there's no violation of the Constitution. He clearly concedes there is no violation of the Constitution because the plan is constitutional under Congress's spending powers. Also, the plan is constitutional under Congress spend powers. Also, he has no offense to Constitution. Extended Pell Grants is a federal program. He says the Constitution mandates that we return rehab to the states. That's impossible because Pell Grants is a uniquely federal program. This means he can never solve. He has to defend a competitive post-God United States policy option. All the framework tricks he went for are insufficient to beat offense defense. He said that he's not challenging an assumption of the res, but by extension, offense defense proves that he has to defend why a competitive post-scout policy option is proactively good, not simply going for AC insufficient to affirmative negate. So negate. He has to win the competitive policy option is proactively good. He has no offense in his competitive policy option, so vote out in a risk of offense because his competitive policy option, evaluating equally, is impossible under the plan. But, so, Gooden comes first. Then, he says we have to look to the explicit text of the Constitution, but the explicit text of the Constitution says that Congress has spending powers, they're free to spend money. That means federal programs that expand educational opportunity are clearly constitutional. Then he extends that, Constitution outweighs good because it's considered the existence of the government. But, again, crossed by his argument about his off fallacy, I'm saying the government should be utilitarian. They should only value the Constitution because of some sort of pleasurable state.